Thanks to both of you for being here. Michael and I were just talking about a lot of these newsworthy claims, including some of the attacks on you from the Trump side. You're really in the center of this. I got more questions for you.
We may need an hour one of these days.
Exactly. But we also brought in Mr. Ackerman, who's been in these kind of cases. And the cases that touch on people who are in government and have political followings are more complex. We've seen a lot of back and forth. I wanted to bring you in special, and Mr. Cohen's agreed to do this, so we appreciate that, to bring your legal lens on what just transpired today. Your view of this back and forth with a witness that under New York rules is, as we understand it, being brought in as a legal right of Donald Trump, a courtesy to that side,
right.
So the grand jury hears that. What are you making of all this and what you just heard from Mr. Cohen?
What I make of this is I start with the Mueller report, because the Mueller report basically laid out what I see as a witness tampering plot by Donald Trump, basically to keep Michael in line with Donald Trump.
Through whom?
Through Rudy Giuliani and Bob Costello.
I thought that's what you might say.
Right. Now, Bob Costello, I know, we were in the U.S. Attorney's Office. He's a good guy. But it seems like either he was wittingly or unwittingly part of a plot to essentially keep Michael Cohen in line.
How many years did you overlap with him there?
Oh, a couple years at least.
All these New York lawyers, Michael, they all know each other.
We sure do.
Occupational hazard. Let me put up a headline. Have you break it down, and then Mr. Cohen can respond. He's right here, which I...
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really simple.
For journalism... well, let me put the headline up, Nick.
Yep.
The headline was that Mr. Costello, among other things, contacted one of Mr. Trump's lawyers trying to see, allegedly, if he could arrange a pardon for Mr. Cohen. This came up, as you say, in the Mueller report, where we have some of the evidence. Why does that matter? And then Mike...
Well, that's all part of the story. I mean, it really starts on April 9th when the search warrant is executed. And only a few days after that, Donald Trump calls him, according to the Mueller report, and he can confirm this, and told him that he was just checking in to see if he was okay, and he encouraged Michael to hang in there. And then he got calls from other people, friends of Donald Trump, who called up and basically told him to keep in line, including Alan Weisselberg, who I believe also called him during that period of time. One of the people that was involved.
So
in
I'm going to do my job.
Cooking the books.
I'm going to do my job. If somebody's watching going, okay, a lot of calls, what's wrong with that?
Well, what's wrong with it is it comes up to a point where Michael meets with Costello, who is talking to Rudy Giuliani, who is talking to Donald Trump. And it all comes back to Donald Trump, that Michael is on board and that he's staying with the team. And the next day, the day after that meeting occurs on April 17th, Donald Trump starts tweeting out that Michael's not going to flip, that he's with the team, that he's on board.
So an effort then to abuse government power to thwart a probe.
Right, and that's exactly what happened here, and what you refer to.
Let me get Michael in.
Yeah.
And then you...
Well, let's not forget, at that point in time, Donald Trump was dangling pardons on television. I could shut this whole thing down tomorrow. I'm the president. I could do whatever I want. You remember those statements that he said, I can shut this whole thing down. It's called a pre-pardon. And he tries to explain, despite the fact he doesn't know what he's talking about. And all of a sudden, they're now on television so that, because I wasn't the only one that was going through some issues at the time, they're now throwing it out there for anybody to see.
Do you recall Costello being a part of that?
Well, not at that point in time, but he ultimately became a significant party to this.
So what does it tell you, first Michael and then Nick, that this is who they brought out? I mean, we heard from a different lawyer, Neil Katyal, who doesn't have a brief for or against you. He's a pretty decorated DOJ lawyer. Yes. He just said, if this is the best they could do, it's a kind of an odd Hail Mary at the end. They bring out this guy who's at least been on both sides of it to attack you in the grand jury. What do you make of Costello being who they brought out today?
Because there's not another dope that's willing to put his backside on the line for Donald. For whatever the reason Costello is elected to do this, I don't know. I mean, yeah, the guy has a career. He's got a profession, but he also has this allegiance to Rudy and, of course, to Donald, that he's willing to go out there and make these false statements.
Nick?
Well, I think this was absolutely a dumb, stupid move. Because if I were Alan Bragg, I would be bringing out all these facts about all the conversations that Costello had with Michael, all the conversations that Costello had with Rudy Giuliani, what Rudy Giuliani said that Donald Trump said, and what he conveyed to Donald Trump. And then I would wind up indicting Donald Trump for witness tampering and obstruction of justice. I mean, the Mueller report in itself is enough basis to do that.
Yeah.
But now they put forward a witness who is right in the middle of this witness tampering plot to come in and supposedly give exculpatory evidence, which is crazy.
And this goes to something you wrote about this in your book. This goes to how Donald Trump uses people. He says, oh, it's called reliance. If I relied on a lawyer, I could do anything. And that's not true, A. And B, here in this case, you have your history and what Donald Trump's lawyers are laying out today in your case, which is now years old, is being replayed in real time in the DOJ classified documents case, which is separate. But a judge just pierced attorney-client privilege because they're saying that he was using one of his lawyers there who's familiar with your history, but apparently didn't learn the lesson that this will get you in trouble. So I want to play this as the last sound, but I want to play it. It's from Mr. Tacopina. And again, for the benefit of your response, this is in kind of brute form, this reliance argument. Let's take a look.
Michael Cohen, regardless of what we all know about him now, and hindsight is 2020, is a fraud, is a liar, convicted perjurer, in the Trump world and outside the Trump world with the medallions and all that stuff, was his lawyer at the time and advised him that this was the proper way to do this to protect himself and his family from embarrassment. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, shame on Joe Tacopina. First and foremost, there was no fraud in the medallions. I don't know even what he's talking about. Second of all, this whole thing about lying and my credibility. I've even said this to you and to others on this station. What did I lie about? And the lie to Congress on the 1001 violation, I pled guilty, was the number of times that I spoke to Donald Trump about the failed real estate project at the direction of, for the benefit of, and in coordination with Donald Trump. I said 3. And the real answer was 10. And if you think that that's going to stop Alvin Bragg or anybody from using me on credibility, it's not. All right. And there's so many things that will not only will come up, but have already dripped out regarding credibility. Testified before 7 congressional committees, the Attorney General, District Attorney, Mueller. Not one person has turned around so far and said that anything that I told them has not been accurate and truthful and relevant to their investigation.
And what I haven't asked you about yet, when you see Donald Trump on Saturday try to announce his own arrest, what do you see him doing there?
This is really panic and fear. He knows what's coming on Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. He knows what's coming down the pike. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to get the advanced jump onto the story. We did the exact same thing at the Trump University case with Schneiderman, where we found out that he was filing, and before he filed, we jumped onto it. It's a typical Trump play.
Yeah. Nick?
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I mean, the fact that Michael might have lied beforehand is really irrelevant to whether he's telling the truth now. I mean, when you go to the jury, the prosecutor's going to say, look, we're not presenting Michael Cohen as a choir boy. Sure, he lied before, but he lied for this defendant who's sitting in the dock. And if you look at the other evidence, if you look at the documents, if you take into account the other testimony, you're going to conclude that Michael Cohen is telling the truth. And the key is the corroboration and the support that they have that what Michael is saying is absolutely spot on.
And if you cancel out whatever the former president posted, based on what we know, that the grand jury was still taking witness testimony as of this afternoon, if they were to move forward on an indictment, what is the timeline for that?
Oh, I still think it could be in a couple days. I don't think it's, going to be too far off.
You have any view on that?
I do, but I'm going to keep it to myself.